You know it's bad when Jason Kelce, of all people, has to step in like a disappointed older cousin and tell you to get your act together. This wasn't some hot take on a slow sports news day. No, this was a full-on intervention, and Kelce wasn't holding back. You're sitting there, scrolling through sports talk clips and highlight reels, when suddenly boom, Jason Kelce's voice cuts through like a halftime locker room speech no one asked for but everyone needed. He's talking about the Cleveland Browns.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
And not in the they have potential kind of way. It's more like, this team is a walking, limping, overpaid warning sign of how not to run an NFL franchise. And if that wasn't enough, Browns ownership? They did not take it well. So let's set the scene. The Browns are in the AFC North, arguably one of the most unforgiving divisions in football. You've got the Steelers, eternally stable. The Ravens, machine-like efficiency. And the Bengals, rising fast with a franchise quarterback and a front office that actually seems to know what it's doing. And then there's Cleveland. They're the kid who shows up to the group project with an expensive science fair board, glitter glued everywhere, but no actual data to present. All flash. No cohesion. And now, Jason Kelce is standing over that board like, you really thought this was gonna win? Kelce's comments weren't just spicy, they were surgical. He called out the team's constant turnover, the whiplash-inducing quarterback carousel, and the baffling decision-making that's left Browns fans either in a rage spiral or deep existential dread. He pointed out the glaring inconsistencies, the wasted talent, and the fact that Cleveland, despite having all the right pieces on paper, just can't stop tripping over their own shoelaces. And here's where it gets messy. Instead of taking the L in silence, or, dare we say, using the criticism as a rare moment of reflection, Cleveland's owner reportedly lost it. Sources say there was fury. Behind the scenes shouting. Some good old-fashioned chest-puffing. Because apparently, Kelce poked a nerve the Browns didn't want anyone touching. The truth. Now, here's the kicker. Kelce isn't just another retired player lobbing takes from the safety of a podcast. This is Jason freaking Kelce, Super Bowl champ, future Hall of Famer, and a guy respected across the league for his brain as much as his brute force. When he speaks, people listen. When he criticizes, it cuts deeper because he's not out here chasing headlines. He's chasing accountability. And oh boy, did the Browns need that accountability check. Think about it. They gave Deshaun Watson a $230 million fully guaranteed contract. That's right, fully guaranteed. In a league where injuries are a weekly reality and off-field baggage can derail a career overnight, Cleveland backed up the money truck and handed over the keys like it was a casual Madden trade. And what's the return been so far? Injuries. Controversy. Instability. Sprinkle in a supporting roster that's more brittle than a gingerbread house in a hailstorm, and you've got a franchise that looks less like a Super Bowl contender and more like a very expensive cautionary tale. Kelce pointed all of this out. He didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't try to soften the blow. He said what a lot of people have been thinking. The Browns are stuck in a cycle of dysfunction, and the only way out is to overhaul the culture from the ground up. But again, Browns ownership didn't want to hear that. And honestly, are we surprised? This is a franchise that's had 32 different starting quarterbacks since 1999. 32. That's not a stat, that's a tragic punchline. They've cycled through coaches like it's a reality show audition. Every season starts with hope, and by mid-October, fans are bargaining with the football gods for just a .500 record. And yet, when someone finally calls it out with clarity and authority, they bristle. Deflect. Deny. Classic, we know better energy from a front office that doesn't. Let's talk about the fans for a second. Because if anyone deserves better in this mess, it's them. Browns fans are loyal to the point of absurdity. These people show up in the freezing cold year after year for what is basically the football equivalent of waiting for a package that's never arriving. They're not asking for perfection. Just competence. A plan. A reason to believe. And Kelce, in his own gruff, no-nonsense way, gave them validation. He said the quiet part out loud. He made it clear that the problem isn't just the latest quarterback or last Sunday's blown coverage. It's the DNA of the organization. And let's not gloss over the irony here. Joe Flacco, yes, that Joe Flacco, had to come in last season and save face for this team. We're talking about a guy most people thought was one good nap away from retirement. But there he was, bawling out like it was 2012 again, because someone had to carry the offense while the front office tried to remember how depth charts work. The Browns didn't plan for this. They were banking on a Watson-led redemption arc. They thought the money would buy them a narrative. Instead, it bought them an injury-prone quarterback, a media circus, and an angry league full of owners now side-eyeing fully guaranteed deals. And the cherry on top? They've got little cap flexibility left. They're financially handcuffed, struggling to fix holes because the piggy bank was shattered over one player. Meanwhile, the Steelers keep plugging in no-name receivers and turning them into pro bowlers. The Bengals are building around Burrow like a modern dynasty. The Ravens? They're basically a football fortress. So Cleveland? They're the only ones still trying to climb the mountain barefoot, with a map drawn in crayon. So when Jason Kelce speaks up and says, "Maybe this isn't working," that's not just criticism. That's a lifeline. But instead of grabbing it, the Browns front office yanks the rope away and says, "We're fine." But you're not. And the league knows it. Kelce's comments are now echoing across the NFL. Media pundits are dissecting every word. Fans are flooding comment sections with, "He said what we're all thinking." Even former Browns players are nodding along like, "Yep, sounds about right." Because this isn't just about a bad season or a bad contract. This is about a franchise that refuses to learn, no matter how many times they hit the wall. Pride over progress. Ego over evaluation. You can't fix what you won't admit is broken. And Cleveland? They're still pretending the engine's running while smoke pours out from under the hood. If anything, Kelce's comments might have finally triggered the uncomfortable conversation the franchise needs to have. Not just in the locker room. Not just in the press box. But in the owner's suite. Because here's the reality. In a division that rewards long-term planning and punishes short-term chaos, the Browns have chosen chaos every time. And it's not working. So where does that leave them? Probably exactly where Kelce said, stuck. Until they stop throwing money at problems and start building a real foundation, this team is going to keep burning talent, frustrating fans, and spiraling in the exact same cycle they've been in for 2 decades. You can't fake culture. You can't buy chemistry. And you definitely can't yell your way out of a reputation you earned. So, Cleveland, consider this your wake-up call. Jason Kelce didn't say it to be mean. He said it because someone had to. And if the franchise doesn't listen, don't be shocked when next season's headlines look exactly like this one. Moral of the story? If you're spending $230 million to fix your house and the roof's still leaking, maybe it's not the contractor, it's you. Drop a comment below with your take. Was Kelce out of pocket, or just brutally honest? And if you want more NFL meltdowns, PR fumbles, and unfiltered chaos, hit that subscribe button. Because let's be real, this league is a reality show, and we're just here for the next episode. See, Kelce didn't just spark outrage with ownership, he unintentionally lit up the entire NFL media machine. Podcasts, pre-game panels, Reddit threads, that one uncle in your group chat who still thinks Bernie Kosar should come back. Everyone had an opinion. And not because it's fun to dunk on the Browns, okay, maybe a little, but because his comments hit something deeper. It wasn't just about Cleveland. It was about how a team can have everything, resources, fan loyalty, even a decent roster on paper, and still fumble it all through ego, mismanagement, and denial. You ever watch a team walk face first into the same wall over and over again and still act surprised when it hurts? That's the Browns. And Kelce? He was the one guy in the room finally saying, maybe stop walking into walls. But the Browns brass didn't want solutions. They wanted silence. They wanted respect without results. They wanted to protect the process when the only thing that's been processed lately is fan patience into dust. Let's break down why Kelce's critique stung so badly. First off, it exposed the fragility of the Browns' so-called rebuild. This isn't year one of a reboot. This is what Year 25 of, trust us, we've got a plan. And yet every time they get a promising player or a sliver of momentum, they torpedo it with a galaxy brain front office move. Draft bus, coaching carousels, toxic locker rooms. And now, this Watson contract looming over them like the ghost of every bad decision rolled into one very expensive mistake. Kelce pointing all that out wasn't disrespect, it was reality. And the fact that reality made them angry? That says more about them than it does about him. Because here's what Cleveland could have done. They could have said, you know what? We do need to be better. That alone would have been a seismic moment of self-awareness. Maybe even a turning point. But instead, they lashed out. Because criticism feels like a personal attack when you've convinced yourself your reflection is someone else's fault. And let's not pretend this is just a football thing. This is what happens when any organization, sports team or otherwise, gets too wrapped up in their own myth. When they confuse a paycheck for a plan. When they think silence means approval. When no one inside the building wants to say, hey, are we sure this is working? Jason Kelce was that guy. The one yelling, the emperor has no clothes, while the Browns front office is prancing around in a fur coat made of cap space and denial. And the timing? Brutal. Because this was supposed to be the year. Again, the defense had pieces. The running game was solid, before the injuries, anyway. There was real, actual hope. But what did they do? They doubled down on a quarterback who hasn't been able to stay healthy or consistent. They invested everything into a gamble and then acted shocked when the dice came up cold. It's not bad luck anymore, it's bad leadership. And then watching Joe Flacco, yes, still Joe Flacco, step in and run the offense like it was his Sunday league scrimmage? That wasn't just a twist in the script. That was a full-blown plot hole that made the front office look like extras in their own disaster movie. Cleveland's identity crisis is so baked in at this point, they don't even realize they're contradicting themselves. They say they're building for the future, then hand out contracts like it's Black Friday at Best Buy. They talk about culture, then rotate coaches faster than some teams rotate linemen. You know what Jason Kelce's comments really did? They exposed the illusion of progress. That kind of truth hurts. It rattles egos. And the Browns, like so many dysfunctional teams before them, would rather be insulted than introspective. But what really made this whole meltdown legendary was what happened after the comments dropped. Suddenly, every segment on sports talk shows starts sounding like a Kelce echo chamber. Everyone's pulling out the stats, the timelines, the receipts. You've got analysts saying things like, well, if the Browns were to restructure this and if the quarterback stays healthy and if the moon aligns with Venus, and you're sitting there like, wow, that's a lot of qualifiers for a team with this much talent. But that's the Browns. Forever an asterisk. And look, we get it. The NFL is brutal. Teams flame out. Injuries happen. Not everyone can be the Patriots or the Chiefs. But the difference is, most franchises at least try to learn from their mistakes. The Browns? They just change the curtains and keep hoping the foundation stops sinking on its own. Jason Kelce is the guy standing outside that house with a flashlight and a clipboard, saying, your roof's caving in. And instead of hiring a contractor, the Browns are throwing rocks at him from the attic window. Meanwhile, across the division, the Ravens have stability like it's coded into their DNA. The Bengals built an offense that actually protects their quarterback. The Steelers? They literally have a system that works no matter who's under center. They're playing chess. The Browns? Still trying to figure out if checkers is offense or defense. What Kelce really did, intentionally or not, was throw Cleveland's excuses into the sun. No more blaming bad luck, or media bias, or rebuilding timelines. No more coasting on hope. No more hiding behind highlight reels while the locker room leaks morale like a popped Gatorade bottle. He forced the front office, and the fans, to ask the question no one wants to say out loud. Is this team actually serious about winning? Because you can't keep slapping new paint on a busted engine and expecting to win a race. The NFL doesn't care about your intentions. It cares about execution, vision, results. And right now, the Browns look like a team still figuring out which direction the steering wheel turns. So what happens next? Honestly, That's the real drama. Does ownership finally look in the mirror and start cleaning house, front office, coaching, strategy, the whole thing? Or do they do what they always do, dig in, point fingers, fire a coordinator, and pretend that was the solution all along? Because the thing about Kelce's comments is they're not going away. They're bookmarked in every sports journalist folder. They're living rent-free in every fan's head. And the next time the Browns drop a winnable game, guess what quote's getting pulled up? Yup, that one. Jason Kelce might have retired from playing, but now he's out here retiring illusions too. He didn't torch the Browns out of spite. He did it because someone had to say what everyone else has been whispering since 1999. This franchise isn't cursed. It's just stuck. And the only thing more tragic than that? Watching them choose to stay that way. So Cleveland, the ball's in your court now. Are you going to keep pretending everything's fine? Or are you finally going to get honest and fix what's broken? Because if you don't, next season's not going to feel like a redemption arc. It's going to feel like a rerun. And the fans? They're tired of watching the same episode on loop. And that's the real danger here. When your most loyal supporters start tuning out, not because of the losses, but because of the lies, that's when the franchise is in serious trouble. Not a rebuild. Not a reset. But a full-on identity crisis that no quarterback, no contract, no press conference can fix. Unless you change. So shout out to Jason Kelce. For saying it. For not sugarcoating it. For ripping off the Band-Aid the Browns front office kept slapping over a gaping wound. You can ignore criticism. You can deny the dysfunction. But eventually, the scoreboard tells the truth. And when it does, the fans won't care about your intentions. They'll care about why you didn't listen sooner. Let's talk about what happens when a franchise builds its entire identity on, maybe this time it'll be different. That's been the Browns' unofficial motto for decades. Every new coach? A fresh start. Every new quarterback? A savior. Every season? The one. And every year? A spectacular letdown that plays out like a Greek tragedy in shoulder pads. Jason Kelce didn't just roast the Browns, he pulled back the curtain. He exposed how this team operates like it's in a constant reboot cycle, never fixing the core issues, just swapping out the cast and pretending the script has changed. It hasn't. They draft high every year, and half the picks vanish into obscurity. They make splashy signings that fizzle out by November. They talk about culture, like it's a vibe you can order on DoorDash. And when it all crashes and burns, they hit reset. Meanwhile, the league moves on. Teams evolve. Systems improve. Quarterbacks get groomed and protected. But the Browns? They're still looking for magic. Still hoping that this time, it just clicks. But football doesn't work like that. You don't build a dynasty on vibes and desperation. You build it on stability. On accountability. On having a clear plan and sticking to it when things get hard. That's what Kelce was really saying. He wasn't mocking the Browns. He was grieving the fact that year after year, this team chooses chaos over consistency, emotion over execution, ego over results. And that's where the owner's reaction really says it all. Because let's be honest, if someone calls your house a mess and your first instinct is to scream at them instead of cleaning it, maybe they hit a nerve. Maybe the house is a mess. And maybe deep down you already knew it. Let's also not pretend this team hasn't had its moments. There have been flashes. That 2020 playoff run? Electric. Knocking out the Steelers in the wild card? Pure football poetry. For a brief, shining moment, it looked like the Browns had finally figured it out. But what did they do with that momentum? They tore it down. They hit the panic button. They swapped QBs, fired staff, and basically pressed shuffle on everything that made them competitive in the first place. But because Cleveland doesn't know how to build off success. They know how to chase it. And that's the problem. It's like giving someone a winning lottery ticket, and instead of cashing it, they use it as a coaster for a drink they're about to spill all over the blueprint for their next rebuild. Jason Kelce simply said what a lot of former players, analysts, and fans have been thinking. This team doesn't suffer from bad luck. It suffers from bad choices. And now, the consequences are piling up. Let's talk cap space. The Watson deal didn't just put pressure on the field, it put a chokehold on the entire roster. You've got limited flexibility to sign free agents. You can't afford to miss on draft picks. And you have to hope that your big money players stay healthy and productive. Spoiler alert, that's not a strategy. That's a prayer. You look at other organizations and you see adaptability. Adjustments. Baltimore adapts their whole offense around Lamar Jackson. Cincinnati builds a wall around Joe Burrow. Pittsburgh, love them or hate them, finds ways to win with whoever is under center. The Browns? They keep trying to force square pegs into round contracts. And every time someone dares to question it, ownership acts like they've been personally insulted. Like the suggestion of accountability is an attack. But here's the thing about the NFL, the tape doesn't lie. The standings don't lie. The stats don't lie. And now, thanks to Jason Kelce, the public isn't lying to themselves either. So what's next for Cleveland? They're at a crossroads. They can keep pretending everything is fine. Keep defending every decision. Keep firing coaches and blaming scapegoats. Or, they can finally own it. Admit that the plan hasn't worked. That maybe, just maybe, the guy with the Super Bowl ring and the brutal honesty has a point. They can look at their division and realize they're the only team still chasing stability instead of building it. They can look at their fans and finally listen to the frustration that's been bubbling for years. Because let's be real, Browns fans don't need a championship tomorrow. They just need hope that doesn't feel fake. They need leadership that doesn't fold at the first sign of criticism. They need a reason to believe again, and not just because a flashy new quarterback showed up in the offseason. They need substance. They need a franchise that stops reacting to criticism like a kid getting called out in class and starts learning from it. Jason Kelce gave them a gift. It didn't come wrapped in a nice bow. It came wrapped in brutal honesty and a dash of tough love. But it was still a gift. A mirror. An invitation to do better. And whether the Browns accept that gift or smash the mirror out of pride, well, that's what next season is going to show us. Because the league is watching. The fans are watching. And now, thanks to Kelce, everyone's expectations are louder than ever. So here's the million-dollar question. Will the Browns prove everyone wrong? Or just prove Kelce right? Either way, we'll be watching. Because Cleveland's story isn't just another chapter in the NFL season, it's a saga. A lesson. A reminder of how talent without direction is just noise. And until the Browns decide to tune that noise into something meaningful, they'll keep playing second fiddle in a division that doesn't tolerate mediocrity. So buckle up, because this isn't just football, it's full-blown reality TV. And whether Cleveland likes it or not, Jason Kelce just kicked off a new episode. Drop your take in the comments. Do you think Kelce crossed a line? Or was he the only one brave enough to say what needed to be said? And if you love stories like this, drama, chaos, and NFL realness, hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, the next meltdown is just around the corner.